It's late. You should be asleep. You know you should be asleep. You have things to do tomorrow that will require you to be rested and sharp. And instead, you're lying here in the dark with your eyes open and your mind somewhere else entirely. The list runs itself again. The conversation you had earlier this week that ended in a way that didn't feel resolved. The thing your partner said or didn't say. The financial situation that hasn't changed in 3 months, but that you keep turning over as if one more examination of it might finally produce a different result. The job situation, the relationship situation, the health thing you've been quietly worried about but haven't acted on. The way a certain person seems to have pulled back from you lately, and you don't know why.
None of these things can be solved right now. You know that. You know that intellectually. But the mind doesn't seem to care. It just keeps running, like a search engine with no off switch, cycling through every open problem, every unresolved question, every variable you cannot predict. And by the time morning comes, you're already tired. Not from the problems. They haven't changed. From the thinking about the problems. If you know that experience, then you know exactly what chronic anxiety feels like.
Not the clinical kind that requires professional support. No, that exists too, and there's no shame in it. I mean the low-grade, constant background hum of a mind that can't stop tracking things it has no power to change. That hum is what this episode is about. Not how to manage it. Not how to breathe through it. Not how to distract yourself from it. How to understand it at the level deep enough that it actually stops. Because somewhere around 2,000 years ago, a man with far more reason to be anxious than most of us will ever have, a man who had literally nothing, figured out the answer. And it's still the most powerful framework for anxiety that has ever existed.
Here's what I want you to consider before we go any further. Most of your anxiety is not caused by danger. You are probably safe right now. The people you love are probably safe. The things you are worried about are real. I'm not dismissing them. But the vast majority of them are not emergencies. They are uncertainties. They are possibilities. They are futures that haven't happened yet. And the mind is treating them like fires. Why? Because the mind's job, its original evolutionary job, is to predict and prevent bad outcomes. It is an anticipation machine. It scans for what could go wrong, models possible futures, tries to develop contingency plans, tries to control variables. For most of human history, that was essential. The threats were real, immediate, and physical. A mind that didn't stay alert got you killed. But in the modern world, the threats have changed completely. They're not physical. They're social, financial, relational, existential, and crucially, most of them can't be solved by more thinking. You can't think your way to certainty about whether a relationship will survive. You can't think your way to knowing whether your business will succeed, or whether your health will hold, or whether the person you care about will choose to stay. The uncertainty is real. What the mind is doing with it, treating it as a problem to be solved through more attention, more analysis, more worry, that part is the problem. And here's what no breathing exercise, no meditation app, and no self-help routine has ever fully addressed. The problem is not that you're thinking too much. The problem is that you're thinking about the wrong things. You're directing your mental energy toward territory that was never yours to manage. And the reason that distinction matters, really matters, structurally, was worked out in full 2,000 years ago by a man who had every reason in the world to give up.
His name was Epictetus. He was born into slavery, probably around 50 AD, in a small city in what is now Turkey. He had no property, no political standing, no family in any conventional sense. For much of his early life, he lived entirely at the will of another person. His owner could tell him where to go, what to do, and, if the accounts are to be believed, even broke his leg at one point to demonstrate power over him. By every conventional measure, Epictetus had nothing. And yet Epictetus developed what has been called, across centuries of philosophy and psychology, one of the most powerful frameworks for human freedom ever articulated. Not despite having nothing, because of it.
Because when you have nothing, when every external thing has been stripped away or placed beyond your reach, you are forced to confront a question that most people with comfortable lives never truly face. What, if anything, is actually mine? Epictetus sat with that question, and the answer he arrived at was both simple and radical. Some things are in our control, and others are not. That's the opening line of the Enchiridion, the handbook of his teachings. Not a long preamble, not a philosophical warm-up. The first thing he says is the entire point. Some things are in our control, and others are not.
Things in our control, he said, are our opinions, our choices, our desires, our values, our responses. The things we actually do, how we think, what we pursue, what we are willing and unwilling to accept. These belong to us entirely. Things not in our control, everything else. The body, he said, reputation, what other people think of us, how events unfold, the weather of circumstance. And then he said something that most people miss, because it sounds like an obvious follow-up, but is actually the entire revolution. If you confuse what is yours with what isn't, if you treat things not in your control as if they were, you will be anxious, frustrated, and always disappointed.
But if you hold clearly to the distinction, if you put your energy entirely into what is yours and withdraw it entirely from what isn't, you will be free. Not just calmer, free. Sit with that word for a moment. A man who was enslaved, physically, legally, entirely, calling himself free. He wasn't being naive. He wasn't performing contentment. He was describing a genuine interior freedom that no one could take from him, because it lived in the one domain that was entirely his own. His mind, his choices, his response to whatever life sent at him. That is the dichotomy of control. And it is, I'd argue, the most practically useful idea in the history of human philosophy. Let's bring this fully into your actual life. Think about the last time you felt genuinely anxious. Not a passing worry, a real sustained anxiety. The kind that follows you through the day. The kind that's there when you wake up, before you've even remembered why you've ever felt anxious. Now ask yourself, what was the object of that anxiety? In almost every case, not always, but almost, the answer will be something that you cannot directly control. Whether someone will choose to stay with you, whether your work will be recognized and rewarded, whether a financial situation will resolve in your favor, whether your health will hold,
whether people will approve of your choices, whether the future will resemble what you're hoping it will resemble. These things matter. I want to be clear about that. I'm not suggesting your concerns are trivial or that you should simply care less. What I'm suggesting is something more precise. You are spending your mental and emotional energy in a territory where it cannot do anything productive. Think of it like trying to move a wall with your bare hands. The wall is real. It's there. But no amount of pushing changes anything. And at the end of the effort, you're exhausted. And the wall is exactly where it was. That is what anxiety about uncontrollable things feels like from the inside. Enormous effort. No movement. Profound exhaustion. In the 1950s, an American psychologist named Julian Rotter developed a concept called the locus of control. It describes the degree to which a person believes they have control over the outcomes in their life. People with an internal locus of control tend to focus on their own actions and responses. They ask, what can I do here? What is my role in this? What is within my reach to change? People with an external locus of control focus on external factors, other people, luck, circumstances, forces beyond them. They ask, why is this happening to me? Why isn't this going differently? What do I need the world to do differently? Decades of research across cultures, age groups, and contexts have produced a consistent finding. People with a stronger internal locus of control report better mental health, higher resilience, greater performance under pressure, and importantly, significantly less anxiety. Not because their lives are easier, sometimes they're harder, but because they are directing their energy toward the territory where it can actually do something. What Rotter discovered with research, Epictetus had mapped in full 2,000 years earlier. The dichotomy of control is not just ancient wisdom. It is, as far as we can tell from both philosophy and psychology, how a well-functioning mind actually works. Here's the practical problem. Most of us never clearly define the line. We've lived our whole lives in a kind of blur. Something's ours, something's not, but the boundary was never clearly drawn and firmly held. We learned to care about outcomes. We were taught to try hard, to want things, to fear failure. We were not often taught the crucial distinction between trying hard for something and making yourself responsible for an outcome that will ultimately be determined by factors beyond your control. So the energy goes everywhere, into the relationship, and into the constant monitoring of whether the relationship is going to be okay, into the career, and into the relentless concern about how the career is being perceived, how it's being measured, whether it's going to reward the investment, into the body, and into the fear of what might be happening inside it, into the future, and into every possible scenario the future might hold. None of that energy is wrong in its origin. It comes from caring, from being invested, from wanting a good life. But without the line, it becomes a flood with no banks. It goes everywhere. And a flood that goes everywhere doesn't irrigate anything. It just destroys the ground. The dichotomy of control is the riverbank. Let me show you what I mean with the things men most commonly lose sleep over. Other people's opinions of you. This one runs deep. Men worry about being perceived as weak, as unsuccessful, as not enough. They make decisions, sometimes major life decisions, based on how they imagine they will appear to others. Here's the honest truth. What another person thinks of you is not in your control. You can influence it. You can behave with integrity. You can be consistent. You can communicate clearly. But the final judgment that forms inside another person's mind, that belongs to them. You cannot reach into their head and arrange it.
What is yours? Your values, your choices, the quality of your effort. Whether you are actually the person you're presenting yourself as, those things are entirely yours. Put your energy there and genuinely, not just intellectually, but genuinely release the rest. Your partner's feelings. This is one of the most common sources of male anxiety in relationships, and one of the least talked about. Men often carry a tremendous weight of responsibility for how their partner feels. If she's unhappy, something must be wrong with him. If the relationship feels shaky, he must find a way to stabilize it. If she seems distant, he needs to solve it. This comes from love, from caring. It's not wrong to care.
But another person's emotional state is not yours to control. You cannot force someone to feel secure, to feel loved, to feel satisfied. You can create the conditions. You can show up with honesty, presence, and care. You can do your part, but you cannot do their part for them. What is yours is how you show up, whether you are present, whether you are honest, whether you do the work that is genuinely yours to do in the relationship. That's your territory. Stay there. The financial future. This one is particularly acute in uncertain times, and we live in uncertain times. Men worry about money in a way that goes far beyond practical planning. They lie awake running numbers that they've already run. They catastrophize futures they can't predict. They feel the anxiety of a financial situation, as if the anxiety itself might somehow change the outcome. What is yours?
Your skills, your decisions, the effort you put into your work, the choices you make about spending, saving, investing, the habits you build, the opportunities you pursue. What isn't yours? The economy, the market, what your employer decides, what the world does with what you create. You can plan, you can prepare, you can build the best possible foundation. And then the outcome is partly yours and partly not. That's the honest truth. The anxiety that runs past your sphere of control is wasted. The effort you put into your actual domain is not. The outcome of things already set in motion. This is perhaps the most painful category. You sent the message. You made the pitch. You had the conversation. You made the decision. Whatever happens next is no longer in your hands. It depends on another person's response, on timing, on circumstances you cannot see. And yet the mind insists on following the thing, tracking it, worrying about it, as if the right amount of attention will influence a result that has already left your hands. Epictetus had a term for the point at which an action leaves your control. He compared it to an archer releasing an arrow. The preparation, the stance, the breath, the aim belongs entirely to the archer. But the moment the arrow leaves the bow, it is no longer his. Wind, distance, the imperfections of the world, those are not his. His job is to release it well, then to let it go. That image is worth sitting with. Most of us are standing at the archery range, arrow already in flight, trying to control its path with our attention. It doesn't work. It has never worked. The arrow is gone. Your next job is the next arrow. That one, you can still prepare.
I want to tell you about the kind of transformation this actually looks like. Not as a philosophical theory, but as a lived experience. There's a particular type of man I want you to hold in mind. Not a famous man, an ordinary one. He spent years running on anxiety. Not visibly. From the outside, he functioned well. He did his work, he maintained his relationships. He appeared, in most ways, to be managing. But inside, the hum was constant. He worried about what his colleagues thought of him. He worried about whether he was doing enough in his relationship. He worried about money in a way that had no clear bottom, no number that would have felt safe enough, no amount of security that would have quieted the noise. He worried about his health in the vague, persistent way that men do when they've never addressed a fear directly.
He tried things. He meditated, inconsistently. He exercised, which helped with the physical part. He had conversations about stress and was told to relax and slow down, which is a bit like telling someone drowning to drink less water. Nothing reached the root of it. And then he encountered an idea that did. Not in a self-help book, in a philosophy text, in the words of a man born into slavery 2,000 years ago. Some things are in our control and others are not. He sat with that sentence for a long time. And then he did something that sounds small, but was, for him, enormous. He made a list.
On one side, everything he was spending mental energy on, every anxiety, every worry, everything he was tracking. On the other side, a line, 2 columns. What is mine? What isn't? The financial future. Is the decision-making mine? Yes. Is the outcome entirely mine? No. His partner's happiness. Is how he shows up mine? Yes. Is her emotional state entirely his to determine? No. His professional reputation. Is the quality of his work mine? Yes. Is other people's perception of it entirely mine? No. One by one, he went through the list. And something happened that he described afterward as the closest thing to physical relief he'd ever felt from a thought. The things on the right side, the things that were not his, he let himself put down. Not through indifference. He still cared about all of it. He still wanted good outcomes across all of it. But he stopped holding it. He stopped treating it as his responsibility to manage with his constant mental energy. And when he put it down, he found something unexpected. He became more effective at the things that were his. Because the energy that had been dispersed across a dozen uncontrollable variables was now available. It came back to him. It could be directed at actual choices, actual effort, actual decisions that were genuinely within his reach. That is not an accident. That is the mechanism. When you stop wasting energy on what isn't yours, you have more for what is. And when you apply more real energy to your actual domain, outcomes tend to improve. Not because worrying was making things worse, although chronic anxiety does measurably affect performance, but because presence, clarity, and focused effort do genuinely make things better. Epictetus wasn't offering a philosophy of passive acceptance. He was offering a philosophy of radical, precise ownership. Own what is yours completely. Release what isn't entirely. And watch what becomes possible. Here's how to live this, rather than just understand it. Because understanding it intellectually and actually practicing it are 2 different things. You can nod along to everything we've talked about and still lie awake at 2 a.m. running the same loops. The idea has to become a daily practice, a discipline, not a philosophy you visit occasionally, but a filter you apply to your thoughts regularly until it becomes second nature. There are 3 practices worth building. The first, the sorting question. When an anxiety arrives, and they will keep arriving, at least for a while, ask one question. Is this mine to control? Not, can I influence this? Everything can be influenced at some level. The more precise question is, does the outcome ultimately rest with me or with something outside me? If the answer is yes, if this is genuinely in your control, the anxiety is energy waiting to become action. Use it. Decide. Act. Move. If the answer is no, if the outcome depends on another person, on timing, on circumstances you cannot determine, then you have a choice to make. And it is a real choice, not a resignation. You can choose to keep holding it and feel the cost of that. Or you can genuinely set it down, not because it doesn't matter, but because holding it doesn't help. Practice this question daily. Write it somewhere visible if it helps. Apply it to whatever your mind is currently gripping. The second, the archer's pause. For situations where you have already done what you can do, you've sent the application, had the conversation, made the investment, expressed what you needed to express, practice the deliberate act of release. Imagine, concretely, the arrow leaving the bow. You prepared it well. You aimed it as carefully as you could. You released it with everything you had. Now it's in the air. And your job is to prepare the next one. This isn't magical thinking. It's a mental practice that physically redirects your attention from the arrow in flight to the next action within your reach. It doesn't always work immediately. The mind will return to the arrow. Let it come back and calmly return it again to the present, like a meditation. But the object isn't the breath, it's your actual sphere of influence. The third, the energy audit. Once a week, ideally at a moment of calm, sit for 5 minutes and look honestly at where your mental energy went that week. Not to judge yourself, not to feel bad about the anxieties you had, simply to see the pattern. How much energy went to things that were genuinely yours, and how much went to territory that wasn't? Over time, this audit builds self-awareness. You start to see your own habitual places of energy leakage, the specific people, relationships, situations, and categories of uncertainty that consistently pull you past your own line. And once you can see a pattern clearly, you can interrupt it. That's not a small thing. That's everything. Come back with me to where we started. The room in the dark, the mind running its list, the exhaustion of problems that aren't emergencies but feel like them. The weight of 100 things that are out there somewhere in the future, unresolved, waiting. I want to offer you a different image. Imagine a man standing at a clear line in the ground. On his side of the line is everything he can actually influence. His values, his decisions, his effort, his response to whatever life sends at him, his preparation, his quality of presence in his own life. On the other side of the line is everything else. Other people's choices, the future, outcomes already in motion, the economy, what people think of him, the 1,000 variables that are genuinely not his to manage. The man on the right side of the line, the calm man, is not indifferent to what's on the other side. He hopes for good outcomes over there. He cares deeply about some of the things over there. He has done everything genuinely his to do in relation to them. But he does not cross the line. He does not go over there and exhaust himself moving walls that don't move. He stays in his territory. He works his territory fully, completely, without reservation. And because of that, because he isn't spending himself on what isn't his, he has everything available for what is. That man is available to all of us. Epictetus had nothing. Literally nothing. No freedom, no property, no certainty about tomorrow. And he was free. Not because circumstances got better. They didn't. Not immediately. But because he found the one thing no one could take from him. The line. His side of it. His complete, undivided ownership of what genuinely belonged to him. That's what he's offering you. Not a coping technique, not a way to feel better temporarily. A different relationship with reality, one where most of your anxiety simply has nowhere to live anymore because you've stopped feeding it the energy it needs to survive. Here's the one question I want you to carry with you. Is this mine to control? Ask it when the mind starts running. Ask it at 2 a.m. when the list starts. Ask it when you feel the familiar grip of anxiety about something that, looked at clearly, is not yours to determine. Sometimes the answer is yes, and then the anxiety is energy, and you use it. Often the answer is no, and then you have a choice about where that energy goes instead. Draw the line clearly. Know which side is yours. Put everything you have into your territory and genuinely, deliberately release the rest. That single practice, applied consistently over time, will change more than any app, any breathing technique, or any motivational content ever has. Because it reaches the root. This is what Epictetus understood in a cell, what Marcus Aurelius practiced on a throne, what 2,000 years of serious men have returned to when life became heavy. The line has always been there. You just have to choose to see it. And then choose to stay on your side of it. That's the work. Quiet, daily, invisible, and more powerful than almost anything else you will ever do for yourself. I'll see you in the next one.